Blood seeped through the bandage on Vincent Kane's left hand as he clutched his wife's Purple Heart against his chest. The harsh fluorescent lights of the VA Medical Center in Phoenix burned his eyes, but nothing compared to the searing humiliation of being treated like a criminal while trying to honor Isabella's final sacrifice. Welcome to our channel where we expose the truth about how our heroes are really treated. If stories like this make your blood boil, smash that subscribe button and help us fight for justice. We post shocking true stories like this every single week. Before I tell you what happened next in Vincent's story, I need to know who I'm talking to. Drop in the comments right now, how old are you and what state are you watching from? Your voice matters, and together we're going to make sure stories like this never happen again. Vincent Kane, 64 years old, stood bleeding in the Phoenix VA Medical Center lobby, wearing his dress blues despite the 115-degree Arizona heat outside. Exactly 8 months ago, his wife Isabella, Army medic, Purple Heart recipient, mother of 2, had died not from enemy fire, but from the cancer caused by toxic burn pit exposure in Afghanistan. She'd spent her final days in this same hospital, fighting a system that seemed designed to deny her the care she'd earned with her blood. "Vincent, when I'm gone, take my Purple Heart to the memorial wall," Isabella had gasped through the morphine haze, her voice barely a whisper above the ventilator. "Make them hang it with the others. Make sure they remember that women bled for this country too." For 8 months, Vincent had fought through bureaucratic red tape, hostile administrators, and endless paperwork to arrange this simple ceremony. Isabella's Purple Heart deserved to be displayed alongside other fallen heroes, not hidden away in a box on his mantle. The patient advocate office buzzed with activity as Vincent approached the reception desk, his bandaged hand, cut while mounting Isabella's memorial display at home, leaving small spots of blood on the paperwork. Behind the desk sat a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair and the demeanor of someone who perfected the art of saying no without explanation. "Next," she barked, her fingers flying across her keyboard without looking up. Vincent stepped forward, carefully placing his documentation and Isabella's Purple Heart case on the counter. "Vincent Kane. I have an appointment to discuss the memorial wall installation for." "What is that?" The woman's eyes had locked onto the Purple Heart with immediate suspicion, her voice dripping with accusation. "This is my wife's Purple Heart," Vincent explained, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Staff Sergeant Isabella Kane, Army medic. She died from service-connected cancer 8 months ago. The memorial committee approved." "Stop right there." The woman's voice cut through the lobby like a weapon. "I don't know what kind of scam you're running, but you can't just walk in here with random military decorations claiming they belong to dead people." Vincent felt the room start to spin. He'd called ahead, filed the proper forms, even provided Isabella's DD-214 and medical records. "Ma'am, I have all the documentation. Here's her death certificate, her service records, and the approval from." "I don't care what fake papers you've printed up," she sneered, her voice rising to attract attention. "Security protocol clearly states that unauthorized military decorations cannot be displayed without proper verification, and frankly, you look like the type who'd steal valor from real heroes." Other visitors in the waiting area turned to stare. A young veteran in a wheelchair whispered to his companion, "Look at that guy trying to fake his way into the memorial wall." An elderly woman shook her head in disgust. Vincent's bandaged hand trembled as he tried to maintain his composure. "Ma'am, this medal was earned by my wife when her convoy was hit by an IED outside Kabul. She saved 3 soldiers' lives while bleeding out herself. This isn't stolen valor, this is a widow trying to honor." "Security," the woman screamed, slamming her hand on a panic button. "Code 3 to patient advocacy. We have a stolen valor situation with potential fraud." "Please," Vincent said, his voice breaking as blood spots appeared on his paperwork. "Isabella died in room 314 upstairs. Dr. Rodriguez was her oncologist. Nurse Patricia Chen can verify." "I don't care if you memorize the staff directory," the woman snarled as security guards rushed toward them. "You're not the first con artist to try this sob story. Real military wives don't bleed all over our counter and demand special treatment. 2 security guards flanked Vincent, their hands moving toward their restraints. Vincent looked at Isabella's Purple Heart, then at the memorial wall visible through the lobby windows. Their wall. The place where heroes' sacrifices were supposed to be honored, not mocked. "Sir, we need you to step away from the counter immediately," the lead guard said, his voice professionally neutral but his hand ready to act. Vincent nodded slowly, carefully picking up Isabella's Purple Heart while leaving bloody fingerprints on the case. He wouldn't resist. Isabella had always said that dignity in defeat meant more than victory without honor. As the guards escorted him toward the exit, a young man in scrubs discreetly pulled out his phone. Marcus Williams, a respiratory therapist who'd actually treated Isabella during her final weeks, had witnessed the entire exchange with growing horror. The video was crystal clear, a bleeding veteran in dress blues, holding a Purple Heart, being forcibly removed from a VA hospital while trying to honor his dead wife's memory. Marcus posted it to TikTok with a caption that would change everything: "This is how at Phoenix VA treats Gold Star families." Vincent Kane's wife Isabella died saving soldiers in Afghanistan, then died again from burn pit cancer. They just called security on him for trying to honor her memory. This is absolutely disgusting. #Justice for Isabella #Veteran Rights #VA Scandal. If this doesn't make you absolutely furious, you're not human. Hit that like button if you think our Gold Star families deserve better than this disgraceful treatment. Vincent sat on a scorching concrete bench outside the VA hospital, Isabella's Purple Heart burning against his palm in the desert heat. The Phoenix sun was merciless, but nothing compared to the fire of rage and helplessness consuming him from within. Other patients and families continued entering the building, their conversations about appointments and treatments drifting through the superheated air. He pulled out his phone to call his daughter Maria in San Antonio, to tell her he'd failed again. But before he could dial, his phone exploded with notifications. Messages poured in from numbers he'd never seen, each one hitting him like a physical blow. "We're with you, Vincent. Isabella was a hero. Don't give up, sir. We've got your back. This is a national disgrace. Keep fighting. My husband died the same way. Burn pits killed more of our soldiers than bullets ever did." Confused and overwhelmed, Vincent opened his social media apps with his uninjured hand. The video had 200,000 views. Then 500,000. Within 2 hours, 1.2 million. The hashtag Justice for Isabella was trending nationally, spreading across platforms like wildfire through drought-stricken Arizona. Comments flooded in from veterans, military families, and civilians who were absolutely enraged by what they'd witnessed. "This man's wife died serving our country twice, once from enemy action, once from toxic exposure, and this is how we treat him. Fire everyone involved in this disgrace immediately. That woman behind the desk should be charged with harassment of a Gold Star family. Isabella Kane saved lives in Afghanistan and they're treating her husband like a criminal. Where's the honor? Where's the respect? Where's the basic human decency?" Major news networks picked up the story within hours. CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC all sent crews racing to Phoenix. The VA's national headquarters was bombarded with phone calls demanding answers. The hashtag VA scandal began trending alongside #Justice for Isabella as more veterans shared their own stories of bureaucratic cruelty. Protesters began gathering outside the Phoenix VA hospital, holding signs with Isabella's photo and chanting demands for accountability. At exactly 3:47 p.m., 3 hours and 23 minutes after Vincent had been humiliated and ejected, a black SUV with government plates screeched into the VA parking lot. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, Director of Veterans Affairs for the Southwest region, emerged wearing her service dress uniform, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. She'd been in her Las Vegas office when her aide, Captain Rodriguez, had burst in with a tablet showing the viral video. Colonel Mitchell had served 2 combat tours in Iraq and overseen VA operations for 8 years. She recognized something in Vincent's eyes that the desk clerk had completely missed, the hollow devastation of a man who'd already lost everything and was now being denied the one thing that might give his loss meaning. "Colonel, you have to see this," Captain Rodriguez had said, his voice shaking with anger. "This happened at Phoenix VA 3 hours ago. The family has been trying to get approval for 8 months." Colonel Mitchell watched the video twice, her expression growing more thunderous with each viewing. When it ended, she grabbed her uniform jacket and headed for the door. "Ma'am, where are you going?" Rodriguez asked. "To do what should have been done 8 months ago," she replied with military precision and personal fury. "Mr. Kane." The colonel approached the bench where Vincent still sat, sweat-soaked and defeated, both man and metal wilting under the brutal Arizona sun. Vincent looked up, squinting through heat-induced exhaustion. His bandaged hand had soaked through with blood and sweat. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Colonel Sarah Mitchell, Southwest Regional Director of Veterans Affairs." Her voice carried the authority of command but trembled with genuine emotion. "I'm here to personally apologize for the unconscionable treatment you received today. What happened to you violates everything this institution claims to stand for." Vincent tried to stand, his movements unsteady from heat and grief, but the colonel gestured for him to remain seated and took a place beside him on the burning concrete. It was an unprecedented gesture, the regional VA director, sitting on a public bench with a mistreated Gold Star family member. "I've been reviewing Isabella's case file, Mr. Kane," Colonel Mitchell continued, pulling out a tablet despite the heat. "Staff Sergeant Isabella Maria Kane, 68W Combat Medic, 82nd Airborne Division. 2 deployments to Afghanistan. Purple Heart recipient for actions under fire that saved 3 soldiers' lives while she was critically wounded herself. How did you?" Social media works fast, but military records work faster when a colonel demands them immediately. Colonel Mitchell's smile was grim but determined. "I've spent the last 3 hours investigating every aspect of this case, and what I found is absolutely unacceptable." Vincent looked down at Isabella's Purple Heart, now burning hot from the sun and his grief. "I just wanted to keep my promise to her, Colonel. She died twice for this country, once from that IED blast that shattered her leg and punctured her lung, and again from the cancer caused by those burning chemical pits. All she wanted was to be remembered alongside the other heroes." The colonel listened as Vincent's voice grew stronger with righteous anger. "Isabella didn't just serve, she sacrificed everything. She came home with invisible wounds that took 8 years to kill her. Lung cancer, liver damage, neurological problems, all from breathing those toxic fumes while she was saving lives downrange." Colonel Mitchell remained silent, but her jaw tightened with each detail. "The VA fought her disability claim for 6 years. 6 years of appeals, medical exams, bureaucratic delays while she got sicker and sicker. They finally approved her benefits 3 months before she died. 3 months, Colonel. After 8 years of suffering, they gave her 90 days of recognition." Vincent's eyes filled with tears that immediately evaporated in the desert heat. "She never complained, never gave up, never stopped believing that this country would eventually do right by her. Even when the chemo failed, even when the pain got unbearable, she kept saying that her service mattered, that her sacrifice meant something. When she was dying, Isabella made me promise to get her Purple Heart displayed on the memorial wall. She said it wasn't about glory, it was about making sure other women warriors knew they belonged, that their service counted, that their blood was just as red as any man's." Colonel Mitchell's voice was barely controlled when she finally spoke. "Mr. Kane, your wife didn't just serve with honor, she embodied everything this nation should aspire to be. What happened to you today is not just wrong, it's a betrayal of every value she died defending. What would you do if this happened to your family? Would you have fought back harder, demanded to see supervisors, refused to leave? Or would you have handled it like Vincent did, maintaining dignity even when the system failed you completely? Tell me in the comments what you think should happen to the people who treated a Gold Star family this way." Vincent's injured hand shook as he accepted the colonel's help standing up. The Purple Heart felt lighter now, weighted with hope rather than despair. But the clerk said I was running a scam. That clerk has been terminated effective immediately, Colonel Mitchell said with the finality of a death sentence. She'll never work for the VA again in any capacity. What she did wasn't just unprofessional, it was a disgrace to the uniform she never earned the right to wear. Together, they walked toward the VA hospital entrance. Word had spread throughout the facility about the viral video and the colonel's emergency intervention. Staff members lined the corridors, many having pulled up the video on their phones. Instead of the suspicion Vincent had faced hours earlier, he saw shame and respect in their eyes. But not everyone had gotten the message. As they approached the patient advocacy office, the same gray-haired woman who had humiliated Vincent stood blocking their path, flanked by two nervous-looking supervisors. "Colonel, with all due respect, this man was disrupting our operations and making false claims about military decorations," she said with bureaucratic arrogance. "We have protocols for a reason, and I followed them to the letter." One of her supervisors, a thin man with clipboard authority, added nervously, "Margaret has been with the VA for 15 years. She was just doing her job according to established procedures." Colonel Mitchell's expression turned arctic. "Ms. Patterson, you accused a Gold Star widower of stolen valor, called security on a bleeding veteran, and humiliated a Purple Heart recipient's family. You didn't follow protocols, you violated every principle this institution exists to uphold. I was protecting the integrity of our memorial wall from people who try to." "Enough." The colonel's voice cut through the lobby like a blade, causing everyone within 50 feet to freeze. "You will clear out your desk immediately. Security will escort you from the premises. You are banned from all VA facilities nationwide." But the confrontation wasn't over. As they moved deeper into the hospital, a cluster of staff members blocked their path near the memorial wall. A senior administrator in an expensive suit stepped forward, his face red with indignation. "Colonel Mitchell, this is highly irregular," the man protested. "We can't just bypass established procedures because of social media pressure. If we give in to every viral video, we'll lose all credibility." A nurse supervisor beside him nodded aggressively. "This sets a dangerous precedent. We have verification processes for good reasons. What's next? Anyone with a Purple Heart gets whatever they want." But before the colonel could respond, a voice cut through the tension like a sword. "That's enough." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Isabella's former oncologist, emerged from the crowd with a team of medical staff behind her. Her scrubs were still stained from a long surgery, her face flushed with anger and exhaustion. "I treated Isabella Kane for 3 years," Dr. Rodriguez announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I watched her fight cancer with the same courage she showed in Afghanistan. I held her hand when she died, and I promised her I'd make sure her sacrifice was remembered." She turned to face the administrator directly. "That woman saved 3 soldiers' lives while bleeding out from an IED blast. She came home and spent 8 years dying slowly from toxic exposure. She fought the VA bureaucracy longer than she fought the Taliban, and you people made her final months a living hell with your callous indifference." Other medical staff began speaking up, their voices growing louder and more angry. "Isabella volunteered in our pediatric ward even while she was receiving chemo. She mentored young female veterans who were struggling with PTSD. She never missed an appointment, never complained about pain, never asked for special treatment. This woman gave everything for her country, and we're arguing about paperwork." The administrator found himself suddenly surrounded by medical staff who had personally witnessed Isabella's courage and character. His supervisor pulled at his sleeve, whispering urgently about the growing crowd and the news cameras visible through the lobby windows. "This is getting out of hand," the man muttered, stepping aside with obvious reluctance. "But I want it on record that I have serious concerns about these irregular procedures." As they finally reached the memorial wall, Dr. Rodriguez placed a gentle hand on Vincent's shoulder. "Mr. Kane, it would be my honor to help install Isabella's Purple Heart. She earned this recognition in blood, and anyone who says otherwise can answer to me personally." That afternoon, as the Phoenix heat began to subside, Vincent stood before the memorial wall holding Isabella's Purple Heart for the final time. The wall stretched across an entire lobby area, displaying hundreds of photos, medals, and tributes to fallen heroes. Soon, Isabella's beautiful face would join them, her Purple Heart gleaming beside her army portrait. "We made it, my love," he whispered to her photo. "You're finally home with your brothers and sisters in arms." A small crowd gathered as Colonel Mitchell personally supervised the installation. Vincent found himself surrounded by medical staff who had known and loved Isabella, veterans who had heard her story, and complete strangers who had been moved by her sacrifice. "Tell us about her," Dr. Rodriguez said softly. Vincent's face lit up with the first genuine smile he'd worn in months. Isabella was a warrior in every sense of the word. In Afghanistan, she ran toward danger when everyone else ran away. She could start in 4 in a moving Humvee under enemy fire and crack jokes to keep wounded soldiers calm while she worked. "But she was also the most compassionate person I've ever known," he continued, his voice growing stronger. "She used to say that healing people was just another form of combat, fighting death instead of the enemy. She saved lives on the battlefield, then came home and saved lives in hospitals, schools, and community centers." Colonel Mitchell listened intently. What made her special? Isabella never forgot that service was about sacrifice, not glory, Vincent replied. She could have taken a desk job after her injuries, collected her disability, and lived quietly. Instead, she spent her remaining years mentoring young veterans, volunteering with military families, and fighting to get burn pit exposure recognized as a service-connected disability. Vincent paused, looking at the memorial wall. Even when she was dying, Isabella was thinking about other people. She knew her case would help future veterans get the care they deserved. Her death became one more battle she fought for her fellow warriors. As they carefully mounted Isabella's Purple Heart next to her photograph, Vincent felt a profound sense of completion. The medal caught the late afternoon light streaming through the lobby windows, casting a small rainbow on the wall, Isabella's final blessing on the space where heroes were remembered. But the ceremony was interrupted by commotion near the hospital entrance. News crews were setting up equipment, protesters were chanting outside, and Vincent could see police cars arriving to manage the growing crowd. "Mr. Kane," Colonel Mitchell said quietly, "this story has become much bigger than just Isabella's memorial. The entire country is talking about how we treat our veteran families. Are you prepared for that level of attention?" Vincent looked at Isabella's photo on the wall, her smile forever frozen in time, her eyes filled with the determination that had carried her through combat and cancer. "Colonel, Isabella never backed down from a fight, especially when it was about protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. If her story can help other military families get the respect they deserve, then bring on the cameras." The next 3 days turned Vincent's quiet grief into a national movement. News outlets across the country picked up Isabella's story, interviewing burn pit exposure victims, Gold Star families, and VA reform advocates. The hashtag Justice for Isabella evolved into hashtag Veteran Dignity as more families shared their own stories of bureaucratic cruelty and systemic neglect. Subscribe to our channel right now if you believe our veteran families deserve justice. We're exposing these stories because someone has to fight for the people who fought for us. Every subscribe helps us reach more people who need to hear the truth. The political response was swift and unprecedented. Within 48 hours of the video going viral, 3 congressional committees announced investigations into VA treatment of Gold Star families. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs flew to Phoenix personally to meet with Vincent and tour the memorial wall where Isabella's Purple Heart now hung. Most importantly, emergency legislation was introduced called the Isabella Kane Memorial Act, mandating sensitivity training for all VA employees, streamlining memorial requests from military families, and establishing a national database of service members who died from toxic exposure. But the most powerful moment came during a live CNN interview when Vincent was asked what Isabella would think about the national attention her story had generated. "Isabella always said that the real enemy wasn't the Taliban or Al-Qaeda," Vincent replied, his voice steady and strong. "The real enemy was indifference, people who could witness suffering and choose to look away, who could see injustice and decide it wasn't their problem. He looked directly into the camera. Isabella's war didn't end in Afghanistan. It continued for 8 years in VA hospitals, disability hearings, and medical appointments where she had to prove over and over again that her service mattered, that her sacrifice was real, that her life had value. The woman behind that desk didn't just insult me, she insulted every veteran who ever bled for this country. She represented a system that views our military families as problems to be managed rather than heroes to be honored. Vincent paused, and when he continued, his voice carried the authority of someone who had looked death in the face and refused to blink. Isabella died fighting for recognition that burn pit exposure killed more of our warriors than roadside bombs. Her legacy isn't just that Purple Heart on the wall, it's every veteran who will now get the care and respect they've earned because her story forced this country to confront its shame. The interviewer was visibly moved. What would you say to other military families facing similar treatment? Don't give up, Vincent said simply. Isabella never gave up, even when the pain was unbearable, even when the bureaucracy seemed designed to crush her spirit. She kept fighting because she knew other veterans were watching, other families were depending on her courage. Our military families are not beggars asking for charity, we're creditors collecting on a debt this nation owes. Every Gold Star family, every disabled veteran, every widow and orphan of our wars has earned their benefits in blood. No bureaucrat has the right to question that sacrifice. 3 months after Isabella's Purple Heart was finally installed, Vincent received a call that would change the trajectory of veteran advocacy forever. Colonel Mitchell had been promoted to Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and she wanted Vincent to join her team as Special Advisor for Gold Star Family Services. Vincent, she said during their phone conversation, Isabella's story exposed problems that go far beyond one rude clerk or one VA hospital. We need someone who understands the reality that military families face, someone who can speak with the moral authority that comes from personal sacrifice. Vincent was hesitant. Colonel, I'm not a politician or a bureaucrat. I'm just a guy who wanted to honor his wife's memory. That's exactly why we need you, she replied. You represent something the VA has lost, the understanding that our mission isn't about policies and procedures, it's about people. It's about making sure that every veteran and every military family gets the dignity and respect they've earned. The decision came easily when Vincent visited Isabella's memorial again and saw a young woman in ACU standing before the wall, tears streaming down her face as she saluted Isabella's Purple Heart. Ma'am, did you know my wife? Vincent asked gently. The soldier turned, wiping her eyes. No, sir, but her story saved my life. I was ready to give up fighting my own burn pit claim, ready to just accept that the system would never acknowledge what happened to us downrange. Then I saw the video of what they did to you, and I realized that giving up would dishonor every veteran who died from toxic exposure. She gestured toward Isabella's photo. Your wife didn't give up when the cancer was eating her alive. She didn't give up when the bureaucrats questioned her service. She didn't give up when the system tried to break her spirit. If she could keep fighting while dying, I can keep fighting while living. That conversation convinced Vincent to accept Colonel Mitchell's offer. Within 6 months, he had established the Gold Star Family Advocacy Program, streamlined memorial processes nationwide, and created a rapid response team for military families facing bureaucratic obstacles. The most meaningful part of his new role came when he began traveling to VA facilities across the country, sharing Isabella's story and training staff on how to treat military families with the respect they deserved. At each presentation, he would end with the same message. Behind every military decoration is a story of sacrifice that most Americans will never fully understand. Behind every Purple Heart is a moment when someone chose to risk everything for their fellow warriors. Behind every Gold Star family is a love story that ended in tragedy but continues in service to others. When you see a veteran or military family member in your facility, you're not looking at a customer or a patient, you're looking at someone who wrote a blank check to America, payable up to and including their life. Treat them accordingly. But Vincent's greatest victory came 18 months after Isabella's memorial installation, when he received a handwritten letter from a young combat medic serving in Syria. "Mr. Kane, my name is Sergeant Maria Santos, and I'm a 68W combat medic like your wife was. I heard Isabella's story during a unit memorial service, and it changed how I think about my own service. I used to worry that if something happened to me downrange, my family would have to fight for recognition just like Isabella did. But because of the changes you've helped make, I know my sacrifice will be honored properly if the worst happens. Thank you for turning your grief into action that protects all of us." Vincent read the letter while sitting beside Isabella's memorial, tears flowing freely for the first time since her funeral. The young medic was right, Isabella's final battle had been won not just for herself, but for every veteran who would come after her. Here's my final question for all of you: do you think Vincent should have accepted that first humiliation and walked away quietly, or was he right to fight for Isabella's recognition even when it meant exposing the VA's failures to the entire country? And what do you think should happen to government employees who treat our military families with such cruelty and disrespect? Drop your honest opinions in the comments. As Vincent prepared to leave the memorial that evening, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Kane, my husband died from burn pit cancer last week. The VA is denying his service connection and refusing memorial benefits. I saw Isabella's story and I know you'll understand. Can you help me fight for him the way you fought for her?" Vincent smiled through his tears, feeling Isabella's presence in the warm Arizona breeze. Some fights, once won, created infinite opportunities to protect other families from the same injustice and indifference. He typed back immediately, "Ma'am, we'll fight for your husband with everything we have. Isabella's legacy ensures that no Gold Star family faces this battle alone. When would you like to meet?" As Vincent walked toward his car, his phone rang. It was Colonel Mitchell, calling with news that would cement Isabella's impact on American military culture forever. "Vincent, I wanted you to hear this directly from me," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "The President just signed the Isabella Kane Memorial Act into law. Every VA facility in America will now have a Gold Star family advocate, mandatory sensitivity training, and streamlined memorial processes. Your wife's name is now permanently part of federal law." Vincent stopped walking, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Isabella's sacrifice had achieved. "Colonel, Isabella always said that the best memorial for a fallen warrior wasn't a statue or a building, it was making sure their sacrifice protected other people." "She was right," Colonel Mitchell replied. "And because of your refusal to let her story be forgotten, thousands of military families will never face the humiliation you endured. Isabella's final mission is complete." As Vincent reached his car, he turned back one last time to look at the VA hospital where Isabella had died and where her memory now stood guard over other military families. The memorial wall was visible through the lobby windows, Isabella's purple heart catching the last rays of Arizona sunlight. "Mission accomplished, my love," he whispered to the desert sky. "Rest easy knowing that every Gold Star family who comes after us will be treated with the honor you fought so hard to earn." The cycle of service, sacrifice, and recognition continued, carried forward on desert winds and sustained by the unbreakable truth that America's warriors, living and dead, deserve nothing less than the full measure of respect they've purchased with their blood. Isabella's war was finally over, but her victory would protect military families for generations to come.